welcome back to another episode of Was That Trauma? Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there.
Yes.
I am Audra,
I'm Courtney.
and we are excited to bring you another weekly episode of Was That Trauma? We have not prepped so much, so we're going to be doing this off of the cuff. But first and foremost, as I said a little earlier, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, all the dads that do mom duties, and just anybody who's a parent in general. So
yes. Yeah, we're recording on actual Mother's Day, so
yes.
That's why we are not. We didn't have any pre-work to think of, but we said let's get in here and get a recording out. So
yeah, the only thing that has recently been on my mind is self-doubt. So I have been doing a lot of social media lately, and I think that kind of puts that self-doubt to the forefront. But it's kind of been a struggle that I've dealt with most of my life. And I do wonder kind of where that stems from, having that you're not good enough mentality, or, you're not pretty enough to do this. You're not thin enough to do this. Where in the world where do those thoughts come from? Like, I'm truly curious, because I think it plays a part personally in my everyday life. I wish I could have the utmost confidence to be like, it doesn't matter what I look like. It doesn't matter, how I sound. Not trying to come off a certain way. But I just, I don't have that. And I can't think of any. Maybe it'll come to me after this, because that's what's great about these recordings, is because sometimes I'll start playing things through my head afterwards, and then it'll pop up, oh yeah, this, or oh yeah, that. But the only thing that has ever stuck to me in my mind, in regards to, so your parents form a lot of your opinions on yourself, and oh, you know what?
Okay. Something clicked. Ta-da! We figured it out.
I can't even. So what I was gonna mention, I'll talk about the epiphany that I just had a second ago. The only thing I had thought of was, I was a high school senior. Maybe I was a junior, but I want to say a senior. It was one of those. I was towards the end of my high school career, and I wanted to go to Purdue. That's where I decided I wanted to go to, and I had really good grades. But my sister was celebrating something. I think she graduated nursing school, and we were at a restaurant with like my dad, my mom, some of her friends, like, a little bit of family. And I had talked about wanting to go to Purdue, and my dad made a comment of essentially like, well, that's if you get in with how your grades are going, or this and that. Now, I had good grades, and as a parent, I can look back and understand what he was saying, because I wasn't going to school a lot. So he was essentially saying, well, good luck to you getting in there, because you're not even going to school. So I get it now, but that has always stuck in my mind. Like, my dad's self-doubt, like doubting me that I would get in to the college that I wanted to get in. And that, honestly, it shouldn't have made the impact, in my opinion, that it did. But I mean, it honestly just that fully discouraged me from going to college in general. Like, I was like, you know what? Because there's always that thing in your mind where it's like, if this little thing happens to be a minor inconvenience, or bother me, then I'm just going to give up on it in general. Kind of. Or maybe that's just how my mind works. But there are just certain things in my life where it's like, if this happens, then game over, kind of a thing. And so I let it be essentially game over for myself. And then I was so upset. I was like, I should just drop the dream altogether. And I was like, well, you know what? forget about it.
So you didn't want to work through the challenge. You're like, nah,
No.
that's too much. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? Fine then, I won't go. Just, you know what? I just want to, whatever.
I think we're sometimes opposite in that way.
No, I didn't want to prove anybody wrong.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. That's how, if somebody tells me I can't do something,
I'm completely demotivated when somebody says that. If somebody, if somebody comes at me and I'm like, okay, say, we want to go on that weightlifting journey, and somebody was to be like,
well, you're back. You'd be like, you're right, my back.
Like, you could never. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, I guess I just won't even start.
I am.
Like, what's the point?
I'm the opposite of that. If somebody tells me I can't, I'm like, bitch, watch me.
I wish I had that. Okay, so the epiphany that I had was, and it wasn't that my mom was meaning to, because this is how, and you will agree, maybe not all moms, but most moms that are our mom's age, how they were. I think it's getting better because I try and be better with my daughter about it, but the nitpicking of, how you look and your weight, because that is how they grew up. They grew up with parents that they wanted them to be, you're not ladylike if you don't look a certain way, you don't act a certain way, you have to make sure you take care of yourself a certain way so you can get married and have a husband and people will love you and like you and da-da-da-da. So maybe that is where the not feeling good enough comes in, because aside from that, and I think about that thing that my dad said all the time, and because I wish it didn't. I wish it had not
affected you.
Gotten in the way of, because I was already not going to school most of the time, so I just needed one little more push.
So somebody
to be
convinced
like,
you not to go.
Forget it. Yeah. But so my mom would always, not that she would be like, oh, you guys are ugly or anything, because no, she would never say that. But if we started to lose weight or we started to present ourselves in a certain way, like those things would be accentuated as in, she's proud of us for, losing weight, or, she's always called us beautiful no matter what. So that's one thing. But you could tell when you looked a certain way, you got better feedback, I guess, from your parents, maybe more attention or more compliments. And it was noticed, oh, Audra's working out, Audra's doing this, Audra's doing that. And I guess that's maybe where that stems from, because I have a lot of, I guess, baggage when it does cut, because I feel like I let weight and looks hold me back from a lot. But even when you have like your weight at a good place, or you have your looks at a good place, I feel like that sticks with you and it truly never goes away. How do you heal from that? Like, how do you repair that? Would it ever fully go away or not?
I think
how miserable.
I feel like it could. I think it's I mean, we're not therapists, but I feel like that's kind of that therapy comes in, right? So you have to learn on literally waking up in the morning, and you have to tell your brain, this is who I am. I'm beautiful. I'm this. It's that whole thing. And that stuff works. People don't like to do it. I had a therapist tell me to do that. Wake up in the morning and you're going to say great things to yourself. I used to tell Aiden that. Like when you wake up in the morning. Yes. And I think some people, it could feel a little silly when you have to tell yourself that thing. But the thing is, your brain is going to believe what you tell it. Again, not a therapist, but that is what I've been told. So if you are constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, this is going to be hard, then it's going to be hard. And you're exactly right. You're not good enough because you've already convinced your brain you're not good enough. But I do think there is truth to those affirmations, and taking that time in the morning, like I said, is what my therapist had told me to do a long time ago, and say, good morning, you're going to have a wonderful day, you're good enough, you're this, you're that, you're beautiful. And eventually your brain will start thinking it. Again, I tell Aiden that all the time. I'm like, if you're doubting yourself, you are responsible for your brain. So you need to make that time, and you need to convince yourself. If you keep telling yourself you can't, you won't.
How about somebody just give me a magic pill
Yeah.
that reroutes my
I think
brain
they have that.
chemistry on that,
Yeah.
and like that's me.
Yes.
I don't want to. I don't want to put in the work.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the
So
thing.
if somebody could just
It
give
took
me
it's
that
like
medicine,
it's like losing weight, right? It took time for you. It took years of telling you XYZ, and it's going to take years for you to reverse that, um I don't know, my mother, it wasn't really my weight. My mom was very beautiful, and I think that's what she expected from me, but never in a bad way. I think I told y'all there was a one time where she fully, while I was in like kindergarten or first grade, gave me a magazine with a nose and said, "Turn to this page. I think that's what your nose will look like when you get your surgery." So, and I was fully a child, and it was from that point forward that I've had an issue with my nose. But,
yeah,
when I had my son, my mom had come in town that week to help with him because I had C-section and all the things. And credit to my son's dad, because he's not great for a lot of reasons, but he was amazing for this. So it was time to eat dinner, and I gained about 50 pounds with Aiden. And when I got home, my mom made dinner and she brought me this plate. And I think I thought I might have told this story, but she put the tiniest little scoop of spaghetti, a tiny scoop of green beans, and a tiny scoop of some other thing. And she gives it to me. I go, "What is this?" And she was like, "That's your dinner." I was like, "This is not enough food." And she goes, "Well, so you can work on your weight." And I won't say his name. I was about to say his name, but Aiden's dad, my son's dad, he sees my eyes starting to water up because I'm upset because I was hungry. I was breastfeeding, and I was so hungry, and I had been home with her all day, like feeding me like a toddler. And and he came over and he goes, "What is this?" And she goes, "Well, it's our dinner." He took that plate and grabbed it from me and took it into the kitchen, and he put like a normal amount of food in there, and he brought it back out. He was like, "Here," he goes, "She needs to eat. Like, she has to eat." And so, it was those little jabs. But I think for me, my issues with, like, when it comes to my appearance and men, more so come from my dad and my brother. So my growing up, when my parents got divorced, I was in fifth grade. And I think when you get into those middle school years and high school, I really feel like, especially those middle school years, things that people say stick. So I was surrounded by two men, which is, again, my brother and my dad, who were essentially raising me. My mom was doing whatever she was doing. And my dad would go on dates with women and tell me about their bodies, not in a he wasn't telling me about having sex with them or anything like that, but he'd be like, "Yeah," especially if my brother was there, they'd be like, "Yeah, she had really big hair," and then they would like cup what would be imaginary breasts in front of them, and he was like, "Yeah, they're real big," and stuff like that, right? So that was them. And then same to my brother. It was a lot of
brother
like,
gets on my nerves.
Yes.
So much. So that's my husband.
Yes.
Like, he always says certain things, and he's like, "Oh, they don't know. They're children."
They do.
Like, you are so annoying.
They do. But they get. I think my dad sexualizing women a lot, and my brother as well. I don't blame him for anything, but it's just, I think having that environment, growing up, it was like, okay, well then I need to be that because that's what men clearly cling to. So I need to work on those things. And I think the issues I may have had, like self-doubt. I think self-doubt and body issues, I think, can be two different things, I think. And self-doubt, I don't think I've ever really had self-doubt, I think, for the most part. I think the only time that really kicks in, not with me personally, as far as like my career or school or, whatever, I think I do doubt myself as a parent, because I think you should, right? Nobody's perfect. And I think you should always question what you're doing and if you're doing the right thing. And then my relationship just with men in general can cause a lot of doubt. And again, that's just from my past and growing up and not having solid men or a foundation in my growing up. So there is doubt in relationships. Like, my doubt comes from, am I allowing this person to treat me like crap, or is this how I deserve to be treated? That's where that kicks in.
That.
Yeah, that kicks in. I'm not blind to the fact that some men are horrible, right? But it is also why I stay single. So
does it ever go to your mind when you go, is this how I just, or is this how I deserve to be treated? And then you go, wait, if I'm questioning myself, then there's a red flag.
It's not, this is how I deserve, I guess. It's so, a good example was someone I was with for a while. His thing was, he had problems. He had a lot of problems. And I was too young to understand those problems in their entirety. And so when we would fight, it would be that thing of, this is your fault. Look what you did to me. Right. Mm. And, I was aware that it was that person. I was aware that his issues, he had addiction problems. I was aware that his issues were his issues. However, his family and him, because they were seeing one side of something, and his friends, because they were seeing the drug addict side of something, made me feel like, well, maybe I am crazy. Like, I guess I'm crazy because it was a lot of me having to take a step back. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I guess, am I not supposed to respond this way to somebody who's a drug addict? I think that's some self-doubt I had, Another example is another person, a whole other person I dated. He was going to school and I was going to school, and I had just started working in human resources. I was still new in it. And he goes, what are you trying to get your degree in? And I was like, I think I'm going to get it in human resources. And this man fully looked at me. He goes, oh, I know now, like, he's a moron. But he goes, oh, that's going to be really hard for you because, like, a degree really, you have to be good at, like, math and stuff like that. And at that time, I was like, yeah, I'm an adult person, so I understand that's bullshit. But at the time, I was young, and I was like, oh, I'm bad at math.
Resources.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But he was like, because, the degree, it's hard, and if you can't get past math, you're going to be stuck. And I was like, yeah, I hate math, so that makes sense, right? So I think those things of doubt, right? Somebody makes me feel,
I need this man's name and address.
I'll tell you exactly who these people are.
But I already know the other one.
Yeah. But especially with that one, I think that one really did some, not the second one, the first one did some damage. And I think that's another reason, not just him. I can't put that all on him. He's not responsible for the things that happened to me growing up. He's not responsible for the things that, the way that I've reacted to things, right? But I do think that relationship did make me also doubt when I date people. It goes back to, like, am I choosing someone that's fucking crazy? Am I screwing up again by choosing someone who looks good on paper but is a fucking mess? And he would say stuff. He would call me crazy, and his little friends would do the same thing. And it would be like, okay, but y'all don't understand the times that he, I won't go into all that. Y'all don't know what's happening behind closed doors. And
that's for when you guys know us more later on.
That's when you know it's more later on. I'll never say his name. I don't know who listens, and I don't want to out anybody for anything. And the reality is, I can't do that right now. But it was that. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of, after that relationship, it was a lot of, well, where did I fuck up? Like, I don't understand. Like, with that person, I just did a lot to try to make something work that was never going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And we had an attraction that was very lust, I guess is the word. We had no business being together. We just didn't. We didn't have anything in common. I think we liked music. That's nice. But all the other stuff, the thing that I think kept us going back was, like, it was honestly, it was sex. That's what it was. And it was whatever that feeling was. It was the dopamine from that person, and it was the oxytocin that I got from that person, and that he got from me. I think it was equal, unfortunately. but you know, you do that, and so it gets to that point, like that's done, and things would happen where that particular person stuff would start over again, and he would say all the things, right, and I would be like, okay, yeah, this makes sense, like you're right, we should be together, yeah, okay, that yeah, I get it. And we had no business, and I believed everything he would say, and then it would be like, no, I lied, I didn't mean any of that. So I think those things have really impacted me. When it comes to relationships, I don't want to be in one, because it goes back to that. I feel crazy. You know, I feel crazy. It's like, okay, well, you know,
have you ever felt like you've been in a healthy relationship?
no.
And then it's going to be super hard to know
and
what
it is.
that is.
And that's not to say, I think
maybe a healthy relationship, you'd then be like, well, this is real boring.
Well, here's
I'm going to have to like,
well, okay, to that point. So the person after him that I was with for a while, that I thought was a healthy relationship until it wasn't. Until that person left me for someone else and said, oh, but we were never actually together.
Right.
And then again, that goes back to self-doubt. Like, what the fuck? Like, you were in my bed. You said I love you every night. You helped care for my kid. You were paying for all sorts of stuff. You were paying to fight for
y'all were in a full relationship.
Oh, like, I know. No, and I know that. I know that. But so that's the thing, right? And then, you know, he ends up going with someone else and tells me, well, you know, we were never actually together. And you know, that's what, and we were, right? You know, and like birthdays, I remember that whole conversation. She was like, I said, this is starting to click. Is that why you never got me any birthday presents? You never even acknowledged things. You said happy birthday, and that's about it. And he was like, yeah, because we weren't together, but like if we were together, and he was like, is that all you wanted was stuff? I was like, I thought we were together. I just thought I need stuff. Like, you couldn't even acknowledge that. Like,
but he did buy you stuff
once in a while, but it was a rare day. What he did buy was he paid for the cost for me to go to court, which is fantastic. But that was
one. He did that laser hair removal. He bought those packages.
That wasn't laser hair removal. I bought that. He one time he paid for me to get waxed my whole body, because he had a problem with that I had hair in my body. So
I thought he was paying for your laser hair removal, and then you ended up not finishing it.
No, I paid for that. But yeah, so it was just, I think those things were a big deal. But as far as like me as a human being, like we'll set the relationships and all that aside. I'm pretty good with like, if somebody tells me I can't do something, then I'm going to do it. Now it's like, okay, well, now that sounds like a challenge. And I don't know how healthy that is either, right? So like, if you're constantly trying to prove something, I don't know that that's the most healthy route either. So I don't know. And I don't know where that comes from, to be honest. It's not that I have no insecurities. I think physically, obviously, I think everybody does. But yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been lucky, and we talked a little bit about this on the thing that we never aired, which was the live TikTok live that we did. But I've been pretty lucky in the male department to not have completely awful relationships with guys. And then when I did see how they were, or I could tell that maybe the guy, oh, okay, this seems like he might be a narcissist kind of a thing. I got out of those. So I am thankful for whatever reason that is.
Yeah,
because,
exactly. That's good.
Yeah, it is good. You know, I've been lucky in the department of males in my life, I guess. Boy.
Yeah, I just no, I haven't had a healthy relationship, but I think, again, I thought that second one was, I think in high school I had a boyfriend, but that's high school. Is that a really relationship? I don't think so. It didn't work out anyway.
I think it still helps.
It didn't help because he cheated. So.
Well, no. Well, I'm saying it's still okay. It still forms you and whatnot.
It does. It does. I think I don't know. I wish to, like, for my own son. My son is graduating high school and he has not dated anybody and he hasn't been interested. And it's not that he's lying. If you knew my son, you would know that he is truly not dating anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I do worry, for him, if not seeing a relation. I know he sees you and my brother, right? And he sees his dad and his stepmom have a relationship, but I am also like, I don't know if that affects him because he's not seeing a relationship. Like, how
Right.
is that going to affect him when he's ready to date? I do think about that sometimes. Like, you never saw a healthy
I think
at
about
home on
that
a
with
regular
all my
basis.
nephews, and even
Yeah.
I'm hoping my kids, since they do have us, that they do hold themselves in high regard. But I think there are people who have parents that have stuck together, that parents have a healthy
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and then they still end up picking the wrong person, and
Yeah.
then that becomes a pattern, right? Um, but I think about that with my nephews and my niece as well. So, with yours and then my other two, and
Yeah.
then but because I don't know if they listen, but the only listen as in when we talk to them. But the only piece of advice that I love to give is no one should ever talk down to you. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in a relationship and you guys are cursing at each other and calling each other
Yeah.
names, that is never healthy and that is not the relationship you want to be in. And I know, like, at least for my older nephew, he is allowing that in his relationships, but he's also a part of
The
the
problem.
problem
Yeah.
too. But it's no one should ever talk down to you, and no one should ever curse it. No one should call you crazy. No one should call you
Mm-hmm.
a bitch. No one should call you, any of that stuff. And if somebody throws something at you, we're not going to get into all that, but
Yeah.
like if somebody, anything physical, anything verbal, those are hard stops for me that I would never, never do.
Yeah.
And I feel like when in one relationship, I wouldn't say names was a thing or whatever, but we would argue sometimes, and I would almost feel like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like relationships, or you're supposed to argue, or you're supposed to do this and that. Um, but I mean, not really.
Yeah.
As I got older, I was like, that's not something that I want. So I was like, I just
Well,
cut all that out.
it's
But
really interesting. Like, my mom being with my uncle, my dad's brother, not her brother. Um, he was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and
yeah.
he was abusive, and uh, not if he was to her, it was never in front of us. It was behind closed doors, and she would never say that he was to her. But I lived there. I heard screaming. I heard things being thrown.
Mm,
So that was always an interesting thing because I had never been in that environment until they were together. And then it was
oh,
like, but she said, no, he never hit me. He never did any of that. Okay. Well, y'all did something. My mom, I would say I have the ability to be, think with logic and all that I get
mm-hmm.
that from my dad. But once you hit that barrier, then I can flip like my mother. Like, I'm not going to put
Mm,
up with bullshit. Like, I'm not. That being said, obviously I did, but I didn't take that particular person that I was with, I didn't take it laying down. It wasn't like, oh, he's being mean to me. Okay, I'll fix it. That wasn't who I was. And
mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what he needed, was somebody who would be more submissive. I don't know. But I just wasn't. And so if he did crazy shit, then I said, oh, let's go, motherfucker. I can do it too. Let's go. And I don't think he liked that. So it was a battle for us, right?
Yeah.
That is not what he wanted. And I honestly, I was in a situation that I did not want to be in,
Mm-hmm.
um and was too afraid to do it by myself. So it was, okay, I guess I'm just in this now. I have to make this work. And um yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. He and I had, years ago, this is years ago, But he and I had a conversation maybe about, it had been 10 or 11 years ago. We were talking about some of that because he was going through, I don't know what he was going through. I don't know what I want to call it, but one of the things he said was, well, I never hit you. And the thing is, he never punched me. That's absolutely facts. Absolutely. We did push each other around. If he pushed me, I pushed him right back. And he's substantially taller than I am. One of the interesting things was he was high a lot, or drunk. No, not, I wouldn't say he was drunk. I think he was high. When we would fight, he was high out of his mind. But I didn't realize that until after the fact. A, because he told me, and B, because I learned what that looked like. You know, after a while, you figure it out. He has a memory of me throwing a beer bottle at him, and I did not. He threw it at me. I ducked. He broke a mirror that my mother had bought us to help redo our house. And it's just interesting. He's like, no, you threw that. I said, no, I didn't. You threw it at me. But in his brain, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
So, and I remember when I heard that story from him, I just thought, oh, this is explaining why your fucking family thinks I'm so horrible. At least at that time. I think we're fine now, but because your fucking memory is not there. Like, you are remembering things incorrectly.
Right.
There was another time where it did get physical on his side, to where I had to hide in a bathroom because I couldn't get past him. And he was screaming at the door. But he doesn't remember that. But I fully remember that because that was terrifying. I had never been through something like that before. And but anyway, so I think you know, it goes back. I'm not. It's not that I wanted to be in that. I felt stuck in something, and I was.
It's hard when you have a kid with someone. You know, that makes it so much harder.
It's that
easy for people to say, "Oh, you just get up and leave."
It is, yeah.
It is so much harder when you're tied to that person.
Yeah, I felt really tied to that person, and then also on top of that, I when it was good, it was great. You know, when things were good, they were great, and then I think the other part of it is my childhood, which I didn't know at the time, but again, lots of therapy has helped me understand why I stayed with this person, why I went back to this person so many times. But in my childhood, I had abandonment. So the last thing I wanted was another person to abandon me. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to stick with this. It wasn't like something you plan. It's not something you're like, I knew better, right? And I didn't take it. Like, we fought. I didn't just like get pushed around or called names. I fought. I did right back. You gonna push me, I'm gonna push you. You gonna call me something, I'm gonna call you something. That's exactly what I knew. His buttons and he knew mine. I knew the things that would bother him the most, and he knew what would bother me the most. So it was just back and forth.
Now you know, as an older adult,
but
if that ever happens, that is not the right.
No, but I know that, but that's the thing, right? So that's why I stay single.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust myself, because I do get, and I've seen me do it just quickly. Like, I've seen it happen, not even that long ago, and not a relationship, but if I catch any kind of like, this feels good, I am almost obsessed with whatever's making me feel good again. And I think it's that dopamine or oxytocin or whatever, that feeling, that euphoria that you get with something, not even new, just something that it makes something click within you. I'm like, I need that. I want more of that.
Yeah.
So that's also another reason I stay single, because I don't want to do this again. You know what I mean? And I don't trust anyone, and I don't trust myself enough to find someone who's not going to do things that are going to make me feel uncomfortable. That's where I am.
Well, when you were talking about, you know, fighting back and stuff, I think for him, if you had been more docile and kind of took it, I think that would have been even worse for him, honestly, because I don't think he would be at the place he is in his life right now. I think because he was so into
Mm-hmm.
so far into the trenches that if somebody had just let it slide, that it might have gone even deeper. So
Yeah. And I'm not, he didn't get sober or anything for me. I just, so
no,
we're all,
no,
like,
no.
I'm not, that's not what happened. He is, this person is fantastic now. Um, he's great. There's
Right,
nothing, I mean, he doesn't hurt anybody. Like, he's not, and I'm not making excuses. He is a really great person. I think the drugs were the problem.
right.
And, um, I will never, um, forgive him for those things.
Oh, you don't have to.
And I don't have to. And
Yeah.
I think a big part of my thing with him, which I've been dealing with kind of right now, coming to terms with, is I understand that he, I don't know if he went through 12 step or however he figured out his life.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a part of that forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
of like, hey, I should ask you for forgiveness. And I think
Hmm.
it's, you know what I mean?
So he's never like
No.
apologized.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. But, and again, it, maybe it's because you fully believe, because your
Yeah, he
fucking
doesn't
memory
think
is,
that he
he
has
doesn't.
anything to
He doesn't think
apologize
that he has anything to
for.
apologize for. Um, and the thing is, I would never apologize to him. Like, you put me through some, you made me do things. You put me through something that I should have never had to have went through
Mm-hmm.
because you were fucking doing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And um and I'm not going to apologize for how I defended myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the issue, right? I will never get that closure from that person.
Mm.
And that's fine. It is what it is. But, you know, I was talking about him the other day, and I said, which I do, I fully recognize and accept that this person is seen to be a great person. I can understand that he's a great person. I I see it. I see it. I think that's amazing. He will always be this horrible person to me.
Mm.
I can't get past the fucked up shit that happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Did you ever watch soap operas?
no, that's not true. I watched. You know what I used to watch? I used to watch The Bold and the Beautiful when I was home from school in the summer.
I don't think this one was on Bold and the Beautiful. I think this one was like Days of Our Lives, but where and his name was Tad or no Todd. His name was Todd, and I can't remember what the girl's name was, but he was full on like obsessed with this lady, and he was like homeless and like whatever, and he straight up raped her. Right?
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
Great.
it's cool. And he went to jail.
Classic.
She gave him a scar on his face, right?
Classic during the day TV.
Yeah. And then later on, because they gave him like a sad backstory, and he really loved this person and all this stuff. So later on in the series, they ended up getting together, like they full on married and had a kid.
Wait,
and all
the guy who raped the woman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
It just makes me think about, the daytime television that makes us think in our mind that these bad relationships are okay, because there are so many things in our youth that we watch where it's like, okay, that's why I don't like when Olivia watches certain things, like on the YouTube kids, like YouTube these days, when the kids make the shows, they make the relationships very tumultuous.
There's a documentary about about this one group of kids, and it's all fake, but they make it like that, but for kids.
Yeah, but and they make it to where you think a tumultuous relationship is okay. It's okay with the arguing. It's he raped me, but he's actually really hurt, and he's
it's because he loved me.
Yeah, he beat me because.
I did talk back.
He just really, really cares about me. And so that factors in, but that's what it made me think of. It made me think of because even me as a youth, I was like, wow, he's actually a really good guy now. Yeah. He went to jail, but he just really loved her. Yes. And she's the only one that could fix him. And I think getting divorced and stuff later on in the show. But it's that there's so much of that in soap operas. At least back in the day, there was. With the
not even that
relationship.
You saw that in like, what was that one that now it's a big deal that keeps coming up? That Boy Meets World, the way that Corey would treat Topanga was fucking crazy. Like out of context, that shit's crazy.
Haven't watched,
Oh girl,
look
it up on TikTok. Her, the way Zach Morris used to treat everybody was fucking crazy.
Well, yeah, Zach was, he wasn't mean to the girls necessarily.
You gotta look up these clips because he's misogynistic.
Yes, oh yeah. 1,000% all of them were misogynistic.
But that's the thing, right? So we grow up and we see that. I remember being young, looking at Corey and Topanga and being like, yeah, like this is a great relationship. As an adult person, I
have to see it.
You have to look this shit up. He is trash.
Well, he has grown up to be trash. The relationship, right? Isn't he still canceled? I don't know. Is it?
Fred is the good one, I think. So
I think they both have issues.
I don't know.
Ben Savage, I believe, is canceled. But
that character, go back, like, oh my God, it's crazy. Like, you look back at like, oh, he's shitty. Like, that is a shitty example of what a boyfriend should be for a preteen.
But and probably most of the writers on the show were male, but even back then, the females would make it seem like this is acceptable for the way a man to treat you. I remember, I'm so sorry if we brought this up before, but listening to like the Bill Clinton trial and stuff when that came out, and everybody was so anti Monica Lewinsky. I'm so glad she's gotten her comeback and has gotten like her being able to be proud of herself again, because she was an impressionable young lady with a objectionably handsome older man that was strongly in power. Yeah. And I'm not saying I probably would have done the same thing. Had I been in that position. Do you know what I mean? Like I felt like he was handsome back in the day. And he's an older guy in power, and he's taking notice of you. Yeah. And he is thinking that you're attractive and given his, he's debonair. And he's got that. He got that little wink, and the little charm. It was just that was a big thing for her. Not that I don't think she's necessarily trying to climb the presidential.
I don't think so either.
Ladder in a way, but like it was just one of those things where you are a young woman, and sometimes these guys who are older completely take advantage of that. People in power,
like grooming. It's that whole grooming thing, or. I think also a big chunk of I think another big chunk that affected my relationships from a young age, my mom made it clear that my dad had cheated on her multiple times, and all the things that he had done to her over the years. I think Galen, my brother, had told me one time that she told him, like, don't ever cheat. Don't you ever cheat. Like, and that stuck with Galen. But for me, my message was, they cheat, but like, okay, like you just go back. But she would never say it's okay, but she was showing me that it was okay. Right. She was still with my dad.
Yes.
And she would tell me the multiple times that he cheated and all the horrible shit he did to her. She told me, and I was very young because they weren't divorced yet, and they divorced when I was in 5th grade, so I was clearly very young. Like Olivia, that'd be like you telling Olivia every horrible thing my brother's ever done, right? So. But I think that also impacted things, because then it was like, I mean, my dad, sure. I mean, my dad, he's decent. So like he figured it out. He grew up. And I think that was another big thing too, right?
You can fix them, Courtney.
Yeah. I think that was another big thing.
If you love hard enough and you make yourself presentable enough and you try harder.
It wasn't that. It was, they grow up eventually. They will grow up, and rightfully so. That person, I guess he grew up, but it was that thing, right? They'll grow out of it. This is just what men do.
Yeah, the boys will be boys,
And so I always had this thought of like, I will never put up with cheating, but that's not true, because that's exactly what happened. Every single relationship, that is exactly what happened every time, and every time I put up with it. And I said, because they're young, like. that makes sense. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
forgive you. You'll grow out of it, you know?
Yeah, I can say that I didn't.
Yeah.
The only time that I allowed quote unquote cheating is when I was like high school age,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this guy I was seeing, but I knew how he was.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I wasn't like, oh, we're like this hardcore boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, I knew how he was, even though he would like try and tell me other things. I'm like, I told him one time, you need to get a pen and paper and you need to start writing stuff down of what you tell people because you can't keep it straight.
Yeah.
And, you know, trying to help a brother out, I was just like, come on, write it down. But I exactly knew how he was. And, but I never took us as a serious relationship. It was like, okay, you want to pretend we're serious. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But this was also the guy who he tried to convince me to get pregnant while I was in high school because he wanted a family.
I'm gonna trap you.
He wanted a family, and he wasn't much older than me.
Yeah.
But he wanted a family, and he was like, no, you know, I told him, I said, you know, my dad told me he would straight up kick me up out of the house if I ever got pregnant and I was in school.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'll take care of you, this and that. It's like, I knew that was a dang lie.
Like, okay, child.
And I was like, no. I was like, no. And I knew this one other person that he would mess with, but he sure convinced her or tricked her.
No, he trapped her.
She sure ended up getting knocked up. And then they ended up having a couple kids together. That eventually didn't work out. My
son's dad wanted kids back to back. Like I didn't want kids at all. I had put, you know, I had said, okay, I remember when I graduated, and I think I even told my dad, I was like, Dad, here's my plan. I want to go to college, right? And then I want to like live my best life. That's what I told my dad. I said, and then maybe I'll consider kids at 30 if I've been with somebody for a couple years first. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, that's a great plan. That did not happen because within a couple months I was pregnant. So, and my son's dad, I remember when it was time to like look for birth control, we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, look at all these birth controls I didn't know existed. And back then, I think you can, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but from what I'm understanding, you can get an IUD now and you didn't have to have a baby. So back then though, you could not do that. My doctor said, yo, you have to have a baby and have that.
I feel like there's still,
I would hope so, because they have
still limitations on things. Yes. They have like certain circumstances.
Yes. They have to open, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel great. So I remember telling my son's dad, I was like, I think I'm gonna get the IUD because I don't want kids, and we already have this one, and I don't want any more. And he was like, what? He was feeling some kind of way about it.
Had another baby to keep him.
No. You know? Oh no. One time
that would have solved, but look, babies solve everything.
One time
Hear
he
me
told
out.
this person I was gonna say something. I'm not going to. But because again, I don't know who listens, and I'm good. But listen. But yeah, no, he wanted all these kids, and I remember him telling me, well, I want a big family. I'm like, you can't even take care of this one. Like, what are we?
Right.
Like, I'm fully only 20. Like, I just have the one. I stuck to that. I kept the IUD because I did not want any others. I think during COVID I was considering having one by myself, but they're expensive, so no thank you.
Babies are expensive.
They are.
Kids are expensive. They're hard.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if I had one during COVID?
I could not. I was so glad.
We would have a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old ish right now.
Well,
oh, how fun.
No. So there were so many challenges that parents experienced during COVID. So I had Oliver in 2018. And so that was a couple years before COVID. And when COVID hit, I was so happy that we ended up not having a third child, because there was a little bit, because my second child was a good sleeper, and it was a lot easier. And so I was talking to my husband about possibly having a third. And because I was like, if we're going to have a third, because of my age, I was gonna be turning 34 or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I was like, because of my age, if we are going to do this, I want to do this now because I don't want to have any kids after 35.
Mm.
And because risks increase, right? You're
Yeah.
considered geriatric pregnancy, and there's so many markers that go up for problems that could
Yeah.
occur. And so I was like, if we're going to do this, I need this now. And my husband was, absolutely not. I do not want a
Yeah.
third kid. And I just, and he was like, I know. And so, I double checked, made sure. I was like, are you sure? I mean, looking back, still, we made the right decision by
Yeah.
stopping it too. But my son would have made the best big brother in the whole
Yeah.
wide world. So that's the only thing that makes me a little sad sometimes, because he would have been. He is amazing with kids. He loves playing with babies and being around other kids. That could be deal with the autism part. It could just
Mm.
be because of who he is and stuff. But anywho, we decided to not have that. And when COVID hit, I was so happy we decided not to, because the baby probably would have been born before COVID, but with the diaper shortages, the formula
Yes.
shortages, now I would
Could you
probably have been
imagine?
breastfeeding, so it probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal.
Yeah.
But the diapers, the wipes,
The
all
chance
that
of
stuff,
COVID.
yeah, everything. And then, like, okay, say by chance I hadn't had the baby, then the dad, some of the dads not being allowed in the delivery rooms,
Uh-huh.
things, family can't come. It would have been just
Horrible.
a mess. And so I'm happy that
I
didn't
know. I go back and
happen.
forth. I'm done now because my son's graduating this year, but I do go back and forth. Like, oh man, I wish I would have had another one. But then I'm also like, no, I don't. I like my freedom that I'm about to have. So, and now that
Yeah,
when my son got into high school, things are just easier. Life was just easier because he's functional.
self
Yeah,
sufficient
yeah. He's
for
got
the most part.
his personality is there now. I'm not having to focus so much on making sure he's not,
Mm-hmm.
uh, just depressed or, some teen that doesn't want to leave their room or whatever. But that's one thing I was always afraid of with him. But we got into high school and I'm like, yeah, he's happy. Everything's good. Um, and I can't imagine if I would have had another kid, and I certainly can't imagine if I would have had a girl, I would have lost my mind, I think. I, I don't think I can do it.
I
I,
think little girls are very sweet.
I'm not just talking about your daughter. I'm talking about just like, I've seen so many families with little girls and teenage girls. I don't think little girls are a problem. I think the teenage stage, I don't think I could take it. I don't think I'm meant for that life. I think,
It is. So my daughter's not a teenager yet, but
yeah.
she's changing, and she's getting more of her own personality and getting all the hormones and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And so it is a change. And you could be fine one second and
Mm.
not fine the second. I told her the next second. But I told her it is truly like that emotions movie. What didn't we? I feel like I'm having deja vu. Didn't we just talk about that? Inside Out,
I think so.
and where the main character, so everything's going through things, and then like the mom's trying to talk to the daughter, and the daughter just yells out, and then the mom's like, what is going on? And she's like, I'm the worst person in the world, because then she's upset about overreacting and this and
Yeah.
that. And that is 1,000% how it truly is.
Yeah.
But I try and take it with a grain of salt most of the time, because, and I tell her this too, she reminds me a lot of myself, so
Mm.
I can see it, and so therefore I can understand it. So it could have been that too, not that it's not hard, but I can understand the emotions, the urges, the lying,
Yeah.
the various things that come along
Mm-hmm.
with her getting older.
Yeah.
But
Aiden he had like a little, I mean, he had the lying and all that other stuff, but then he had like a phase of emotions, and I was like, oh my God. That was enough for me. I was like, I can't imagine if this is a girl on a whole period and all the things. It wouldn't
Yeah,
work.
it's
I
gonna
couldn't
be
do it.
rough.
I
It's gonna
couldn't
be
do it.
rough on the period. That's if it's anything like mine anyway. I mean, even as an adult, I still go through, and I don't. Sometimes I can understand what's going on, but I just get really agitated
Mm-hmm.
and just very short tempered. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't necessarily want to, but you
Can't
say
help it.
something to me, and then it immediately got on my nerves, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't. I just
I have
it.
a
My mom dealt with it with two daughters, so I can deal with it with the one.
I have a friend who has 3 daughters, and she was saying the other day they're all synced up at the same time. They're all teenagers. I'm like, oh,
Well,
it's not my journey.
maybe better to get it all out of the way at once, so it's not one every single
What,
week.
every week?
Because that would be worse.
I don't know. Ugh. I wanted a daughter so bad when I was pregnant. I was like, I want a daughter. When I found out it was a boy, I was like, oh. But now I'm like, I can't think of it any other way. I can't imagine. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with a little boy. That's what I didn't like. I'm like, what is this? Like, what am I doing with this? But yeah, now I can't imagine. I can't imagine a daughter. I just can't. I love the dresses and all the little frilly things and things like that, but outside of that, I don't know if I have the patience for a daughter.
Yeah.
I don't have patience for kids, to be honest. I think
Mine's
that's
getting
the
out
issue.
of all that frilly stuff era, but I feel like she'll be back because I feel like that really was her personality. And then, so she's, a peer and has peer influences. And I feel like is her friends are more into the dark clothes
Mm-hmm.
and this and that. So that's why she's starting to dress more like that, which is fine. I mean, I don't want to say it's peer pressure, but stuff like that's going to come along and be like, oh,
Yeah.
my friends dress like this. I want to try that out. I want to try this out.
She'll figure it out. She'll get her
Yeah,
own.
she'll get her own.
I went through the goth clothes and the Jinko jeans and but still the very girly stuff, and I kind of found in high school. I found my happy medium, right? So I could do the darker clothes, but they were still very girly. And then some days I felt like being real girly. You didn't know who you were gonna get. So she'll find her. She'll figure out where she fits.
Yeah. The goal is just to raise a kid. So going back to the self doubt thing, that is confident in themselves. So I'm really trying. I think for the most part, both kids are fairly confident. Some of it's in your control, some of it's out of your control. Just like Ollie's dealt with a little bit of teasing and stuff. I don't think she necessarily has. She's dealt with some kids that want to eat her food. Not like I'm gonna beat you up, give me your food, but just like I think they had their own food insecurity, and so like they see her as an easy target because she is like her mom and will feel bad for you. And she's tried to then since stick up for herself because probably the stuff that she liked the most would what they wanted. It's like, oh, give me those, Skittles or whatever. But the goal is to raise them to be confident and to have that skill in their life, because that is something I'm still struggling with. I want that confidence. I want to build that confidence of, you do look good enough. And I do think I am smart enough. So that's probably not a bit of it, but a lot of mine revolves around the looks, my weight, my face, my skin. It's all looks wise. And if I don't feel like I have those, I don't feel like I can accomplish a lot of things. Because I feel like it ties in for a female. It ties into so much of what goes on. So even with company wise, if I don't feel let's just say, and I know this is still true to the day, if it's not true in your company, bless you. But if you have a better appearance, just your face and body wise, you are more likely to be promoted and moved up in that company and be taken seriously than someone who is not. That's how I've seen it in all the jobs that I've been in. But not necessarily for men. So for men, if you have your confidence, you don't have to be the best looking guy, but if you have your confidence, and you have, at least you have a decent appearance, as in like you're running a comb through your hair. I mean, it's very minimal for a guy. I feel like, you can be promoted. The main thing with men is confidence and connection.
Yeah.
And for women, I feel like for the most part, to be taken seriously in a lot of things, you have to, anyway, it's 10 times as hard, like on Taylor Swift, the man, right? You have to have your looks put together. You need to dress a certain way. You need to have your hair a certain way. You need to be a certain way in order to be taken seriously at your company, and for a lot of the promotions and or just being listened to, I guess, in general.
I would say to listen to for sure. I think my experience hasn't been that though. I think I think with Marriott, sort of. That may be the experience, but even then, I got promoted. I think but for me though, it was the confidence, I think, and then just the work ethic. But I haven't had that barrier, and I don't wear makeup to work, and my hair is in a ponytail a lot because I can't be doing that. When I worked for Marriott, I had to have full makeup, full hair. That sucked. I hated it.
Yeah.
Because if you even have one day you're not feeling, like, I literally had someone talk to me, one of my managers, and he was like, hey, so like, I noticed.
But the men don't have to wear makeup
right,
on their face.
Right.
So
but that hasn't been the case everywhere. So I think it also depends on, what industry you're in and stuff like that. But I haven't had anything hold me back. But I think part of that is I've also made it very clear whenever I go somewhere, these are my goals, these are my expectations. Mm-hmm. And I've also made it clear, like, if I'm not seeing growth within X amount of time, I will leave.
Yeah.
And so I've been fortunate enough, knock on all the woods, that I have been able to, that I have been able to move up in my career, not to the point where I want, and that's because a degree is holding me back. But even with that, there's plenty of men to that point that don't have degrees, and they're fully much further than myself or other women that I see in a company.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is I've had positions created for me to stay mm-hmm. places. So I think that's part of it, and I'm only saying this because you gotta switch that mentality just a little bit to help you see that other side. It's not always black and white.
Well, I don't necessarily think I'm feeling like I'm being held back, but it is something that I see. It is something I visually see when you look at the executives in your company. Now, again, they're executives, right? They can't necessarily be looking like trash, but you can see who they hire, see what they look like, and even, you start going down the chain of what people look like. And I'm just saying there is an appearance wise, and I think there is a standard for women that is held that is not held for a man. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you're in business. And
well, the good thing is, not for us, but good thing is, it seems like we're going back to this is a man's world, so none of this matters.
Well, then we just have to fully be dressed up just to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, in our red capes. And then we go.
Oh my God. I should have been checking to make sure it was still recording. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Like, that would have been awful. It had stopped recording.
I thought about that.
And then, oh Lord. But anyway, I have to work on my self-confidence.
Yeah.
A lot of that is tied to my appearance and how I feel about myself. Yeah. Now, that is something extra special that I just have to work on in general, because I have never felt a consistent way about my appearance, no matter. So in general, if I do my hair, I do my makeup, I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel like I eat better. I feel like I have more
Mhm.
confidence, and I don't want that to be a thing, but that is what makes me feel better as a person. I wish it was not that way, but I don't know if that is something that I can change. And it's not necessarily a bad thing.
I think there's a lot of women who feel that way.
Yeah, if I look good, I feel good. If I feel good, I eat good.
Yeah.
It all comes into an alignment. But I mean, I can honestly say, I've been a smaller size. I've, had a better look and stuff, and that confidence still isn't always there. So there's just a lot of self doubt and a lot of confidence issues that I need to work on in general. I don't know, like maybe I need a workbook or something. I don't know, whatever. I don't know, but it did. I hadn't thought about my mom thing in a while, but we're gonna end it soon. But that made me think of, when I was pregnant with my daughter, one of the things that I saw was never talk about um, weight as a thing, and never talk about like beauty standards and stuff like that as a thing for your kid. Because if your kids see it, like, or even for yourself though, so never talk down to yourself in front of your kid, because that's going to hold weight with them. So like you'd have the mom on a scale in front of their child, and the child sees the mom always weighing themselves. Yeah, just it gets ingrained into their brain, which it was a big thing. At least in my household, my mom was always concerned about her weight, right?
My dad was always concerned about my mom's weight, and my mom was always concerned about her weight.
Ugh. And so that sticks with your kids. So that is one thing that I've tried to not do. But then you also have to run that line of, because my daughter's growing up, so now it's like, okay, I don't want to make your appearance a thing, but also I need your hygiene up its level.
And I think those are two hard lines, right? So like appearance, it's fine. Hygiene is a whole other level, right? Yeah, I always tell Aiden that too. I used to be like, I don't care how you look. I just need you to be clean. You want to look like, well, I do say that. And he's getting older now. Now I do care. I make it very clear. If his clothes are wrinkled, I'm like, you're not leaving the house like that. We're not homeless. Get out. But he can't come out here looking with wrinkled clothes, looking all disgusting. I'm like, no, you're not leaving my house. So go change. He's like, I don't have anything else. I go, then I guess you're going to take your clothes off and go iron it.
Yeah, people do look at you a certain way. So like, I do get it. But it's also, I just don't want that to be the thing. But
I don't know. I think for me, Aiden, it's not that I need you to be handsome. I need you to have good hygiene, and I need you to look like you're not sloppy. And it has nothing to do with you looking handsome.
I know, but see, I feel like I can't put that standard onto my kids. I sure be leaving the house looking sloppy like 90% of the time. And I need to up my own game in order. So I feel like if I was to do my hair, do my makeup, dress well.
But see, I don't think the hair and makeup is part of it.
But I think it would have an impact on them visually, because it's like, okay, my mom always looked nice without me having to say anything. And it might not. Yeah. But I feel like that's okay. They see that example. Mom's always doing her hair. Okay, I need to do my hair. Without it, just creates good habits without always having to say something. But I don't know.
You gotta figure out what works for you and your kids.
Yes. Okay. Well, happy Mother's Day, guys.
Yes.
Give me some tips for me to work on my confidence, and that way I can become rich and famous on social media. And I will take you all along for the ride, and we can all become rich and famous.
That's right.
So everybody have a great Mother's Day, and we will be back hopefully next week.
Don't forget to share this podcast and go to all of our socials and like and subscribe.
Everybody.
Bye.